Thank you for joining us for the Innovative Community Response Panel presentation. We're going to jump right into presentations. Our first presentation will be from the Capacity Builders team. Now I will turn it over to Tina Gray and Gloria D. Welcome.
Thank you and welcome. Hello, my name is Gloria D. and I'm a project director with Capacity Builders and been working with Capacity Builders for the past 4 years.
And I'm Tina Gray. I'm a project director with Capacity Builders for 9 years. And I am doing what? Project director. Oh yeah, I'm a project director, I already said that. But I don't know if we're running through slides.
And thank you for joining us today. We will talk about collaborating partnerships with Desert View Counseling. Change your slide, please. And we have been
Let me talk. Since I've been here the longest, I get to do the fun introductory of Capacity Builders. Over 20 years ago, our founder was a teen mom, and she was writing for grants for schools in our local area. And then through the years, she decided that she wanted to create a 501c3 so that she could write for some of her favorite programs into the local schools. So Capacity Builders was formed, and we received a 5-year, $5 million grant from Office of Adolescent Health, and then a community economic development grant. And through that grant, we were able to go to many chapter houses. I think we have over 40 chapter houses on the Navajo Nation, and create and establish partnerships to help them develop their own 501c3 so that they could receive their own funding. And through that initiative, we were able to create all the partnerships that we have now. So I will let Gloria get into that.
So one of the partnerships that we have right now during this opioid grant was Desert View Family Counseling. And with, next slide, please. And so the partnership that we had was with Desert View Family Counseling, and we have worked very positively with Desert View Family Counseling, and they have provided a lot of services for crime victims that we have worked with. And they provided services of individual counseling to family counseling with the crime child victims who also parents were involved in the counseling. So they provided individual counseling, and also if needed, the family also was doing counseling. And so they had a program if it was necessary to have a medication management program. They did online therapy, telehealth during COVID. They continued to provide those services, and we were the backbone to continue to receive referrals and send them to Desert View Family Counseling. Also, the substance abuse opioid education they provided, and which some of the resources that came from JBS, we shared some of those resources with Desert View Family Counseling. We also did the substance use and opioid group along, just partnering, and also life skills and education. They also recently did a 5K run to bring out the awareness on opioids. And that was very interesting just this past couple of months ago. And so they did a lot of community opioid outreach. And we tend to stay in partnership with San Juan County Partnership in attending their substance use and misuse meetings. And so that we are very still active in those meetings. We all get together and meet at least once a month, and sometimes it's twice a month, to continue to collaborate and give out the awareness activities within San Juan County, and also to, the county in San Juan County encompasses the Navajo Nation as well. So we are near the border of the Navajo Nation tribe, which Navajo Nation expands to 27,000 square miles, but we do only take care of we provide services in the area of San Juan County, which is on the state of New Mexico side. Tribal partnership was established with some CBI partners who were already from previous programs. And some of those previous programs is like one of the Kienta shelters, they call it the Twirinishet shelter, and also the Adobe shelter. And Adobe stands for, it's written in our Navajo language, and what it means is mother and children home. It's called Amado Achinabagan. And so, and then also East Community Place, which is located in Kienta, Arizona. And we also established partnership with the Central Consolidated School District, where Capacity Builders is very, we work together with Central Consolidated School District in the San Juan County, Navajo Nation area. So we've established communication with also the Navajo Nation Tribal Police. And so with the Tribal Police, we have been working. And so we have taken a look at a comprehensive approach. And so if you could go to the next slide. We have established a lot of, outreach with Navajo Tribal Police, and you'll see that in the photo that I am there in a photo with the captain of the police district. And so we are, there's Tina next to me, and there's me, and there's Captain Red Horse and his lieutenant, Rory Epstein, and our progress director, Kareem Flores. And at the bottom is just, because of COVID, everything was held outdoors in the middle photo, and it shows that photo where they actually had participants come out and do a recruit test run that day, and Capacity Builders helped, assisted. And your far right is a photo of staff who had a booth that were giving out opioid awareness brochures at the community level. And we also, that day, they had an event going. So next slide. So Tina, CBI took an approach at looking at part of sustainability, and Tina will inform you on the sustainable portion of CBI.
So here at Capacity Builders, we maintain our stability and sustainability in programming by continuing programs through applying for more grants in different areas. We nurture and continuously involve our partners that we started from the beginning. And in current programming, we go to extra meetings, we assist with recruitment drives, we help with food drives. A lot of those food that was handed out during the COVID times, and PPA was handed out. Our CBI team, from our executive director to our finance people, down to our maintenance people, we were all involved in helping and assisting our communities that we work in, thus nurturing those partnerships. We include continuous programs within the grant applications we apply for, such as the Teen Outreach, Wyman's Teen Outreach Program, and Fatherhood is Sacred, and Youth Mental Health First Aid. Once we are trained in these curricula and able to facilitate, we cross-train the rest of our CBI team. Again, from our executive director to our finance people, to programming, to program support, and even down to our maintenance person. Everybody gets trained, and so when CBI invests in itself, if any of us were to win the lottery and leave and not want to work anymore, then we have somebody who's able to come in and step up and already trained, and therefore we're not wasting time and resources in trying to find extra people, because it seems right now that it's hard to find people to come back to work because they are used to staying at home, I guess. But we were able to fill those needs and fill those gaps for not only our partners, but our communities and in our programming. So we offer these trainings for free when we put them into our grant applications. And because CBI is so innovative and we were able to create programs, but we still have the same roots. We still have the same initiatives in prevention of substance abuse, of domestic violence, of sexual assault, of teen pregnancy. And so through those roots and being creative and innovative, we've been able to sustain CBI and its programs and its initiatives for the community because we're flexible. Gloria?
Next slide, please. So we did, during our programming, we did have brochures that we gave in the community, and a lot of the brochures that were given out was on the opioid crisis. And so what we've done is CBI does have a sister company who provides transportation for crime victims, in case they are needing transportation to counseling or are needing a ride. And we also touched up on substance abuse, prevention education, and within this time, things have been increasing for with us in the opioid crisis. So another approach that we took in sustainability is to become a New Mexico Medicaid enrollee. So staff here are able to enroll for Medicaid, and that's something that we have that is sustainable, and that we will continue to get recertified every year to enroll clients, children, families, and have them referred to Desert View Family Counseling. And so those are one of the programs that we were able to get on board. And so
next slide.
Next slide, our community service learning project. Capacity Builders has been very active in the community. And so as you see that on your far right-hand slide, the Navajo Nation President, Jonathan Nez, had joined us back in August for a back-to-school event outside of the youth center in Shiprock. And so he was we were very fortunate that he stopped by our booth and was able to collaborate with us that day. And so you have also in the middle photo is some youth who are into the teen outreach program and that are very involved. These are children that are elementary school age. And then on your far right is the New Mexico Conservation Youth Corps at the Shiprock Community Chapter, where they also were able to receive services and also counseling from Desert View Family Counseling. So we all together have been very working actively and looking at our community in a positive way, where we are willing to make those changes for our crime victims that we work with. So we are very, we look forward, and one of the components that I always put in there is also part of our cultural teaching. That's where I come in. I do a lot of peer mentoring, to youth, and I'll get invited to Desert View at times to participate. So that's pretty much Capacity Builders. And so next slide, and we appreciate your time, and thank you. And above it says thank you in our language. It means it means thank you, and we are honored to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria and Tina. Our final presentation will be from the Advocates for Basic Legal Equality team. Now I will turn it over to Joseph Warden, Robin, and Treywick.
Well, thank you very much. And on behalf of myself, Joe Warden, and my fellow colleague, attorney Robin Treywick, we're also very pleased to be here. And as I was thinking about everything we've seen and yesterday and even today, there's just so much that time and work and effort that's gone into it. And I just want to thank everybody and thank all the grantees for sharing their work. It's been really nice we're not meeting in person, but it's been wonderful to see everybody and see all the different projects out there. I know Robin and I were talking about it this morning, and we're just, we're very proud to be a part of this. So we want to talk to you today, going back. All right. Our project is the Dayton Medical Legal Partnership. I've been working on our medical legal partnership now for over 10 years. Robin joined me about a year and a half ago. And so we want to talk a little bit about today about what a medical legal partnership is and how we've integrated that into our opioid project. You can see from our name here that Robin and I, we're very passionate about what we do, taking a stand and making a difference, serving child victims of the opioid crisis. Yes, names do matter. And I think that kind of reflects our attitude and what we're doing and the kind of outreach our program has sought to have. So we'll begin. Next slide, please. I don't know how many of you have read The Ripple Effect. It's a very lengthy essay article. One of the quotes that kind of stuck with me that I like to begin our trainings and our programs with is one that really hits home. The devastation of the opioid epidemic is pervasive, lives lost, futures derailed, communities shattered, while hitting the economically and socially disadvantaged particularly hard. Our deadliest drug crisis has left no demographic group untouched. I think all of us in our work here have come to know that more than ever. Next slide, please. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the Medical Legal Partnership, I'm going to spend about 5 minutes or so just kind of talking about it. A medical legal partnership here in Montgomery County, we work with partners, Dayton Children's Hospital, the Kinship Navigator Program, Care House Child Advocacy Centers, the Community Health Centers of Greater Dayton, and Five Rivers Health Centers, and many others, which, due to this grant, we're able to bring in. So you might ask yourself the question, what is an MLP? Why does it work? Who are we and what do we do? And the big question is, how is an MLP uniquely situated to address the needs of child victims in the opioid crisis, to provide the type of innovative community response that we're all engaging in? So the Medical Legal Partnership is an innovative way of providing access to justice through healthcare centers. Next slide, please. Robin and I are actually in our partners' medical facilities. Our relationships are underpinned by what we call, and you all know, is the social determinants of health. Okay, so all of those social determinants impact children, and the legal community is in a great position to address what we're going to talk about as health harming legal needs. Stay on that slide, please. Way back in 2016, that seems like a long time ago, the American Academy of Pediatrics issued a new policy statement. In an article entitled Poverty and Child Health in the United States, it describes the persuasive ways that poverty harms a child's health and development. One of the authors of the article, Dr. James Duffy, who I know and have met many times, states that because poverty so strongly influences children's health and development, pediatricians are asking poverty-related questions that can connect families to resources in their communities. A simple but meaningful question from a doctor to a patient's family: do you have difficulty making ends meet? How's your child doing in school? This can open the doors to all types of issues in which the family can get assistance. And I think if you think about it in terms of what we're doing with the opioid grant, the exact same quote can be said about these child victims. So when we continue to talk about our medical legal partnership, it's based upon evidence that an unmet legal need can undermine health outcomes, that many people never seek or even think of reaching out to a lawyer, and yet they'll share information with their trusted healthcare professional. Okay, by providing legal access to information or advice, trainings, and referral forms through healthcare settings, our partnership can better support health and justice outcomes. We work on issues, all right, you can go to the next slide. We work on all the issues related to the social determinants of health. We focus on those. And you all know that those social determinants are the conditions in which people are born, where they live, where they go to school. They're all important and all encompassing on a family's life. Please go to the next page. And I know you all know these, but it's always worth looking at those. You know, we talk about the social determinants of health, housing, stable, clean, safe housing, access to food, healthcare, family safety and stability. You'll see here from our presentation today that that's a big one. Financial resources, education, that's another area where we have really begun to focus on child victims. So, with an understanding that a medical legal partnerships works within the medical hospitals and community health centers, we collaborate with them, we educate them. It only made sense for us when we were thinking about this grant. You know, we could bring all of our resources to bear on these child victims, because these are who we see. This is what we do. And what better way to seek out and assist these child victims than right at the source where they're seeking healthcare assistance. Okay. So these issues that, please turn to slide. Next slide. These issues, this is how the social determinants of health manifests as legal needs. And you can kind of look through those. But all of these issues clearly fall within what we're doing on our opioid grant. You know, for Robin and I, it's not an understatement to say that the impact of the opioids on children, they're often hidden until their parents experience an overdose or become unable to take care of them. Many of these kiddos are living in a home environment. If they're living there where substance abuse is, the home is often unstable, unsafe, stressful for children. Many of these child victims have been exposed to traumatic experiences such as witnessing an overdose or a death. And Robert and I have seen actually many of those cases since we started on this project. You know, they witness an overdose or a death, or they go through the incarceration of a parent, or they experience long-term neglect. This can cause social, emotional, and physical issues that last well into their adulthood. So when we think about, hold that slide, please. When we think about the opioid crisis and our medical legal partnership, when we talk about family bonds that are shattered by opioid abuse and other family members who have to pick up the pieces to care for these children, often those family members lack resources, financial resources, and they face financial hardships, lack of access to services to help address the child's trauma. And so it's a secular type thing that we're dealing with. So for Robin and I, we talk about safety in the home, family stability, proper medical care. The cases we see, these children are not living in safe, stable housing. They're often witness to violence. They're often lacking as far as attendance in school. They're way behind in school. We've had cases come through where some of the kiddos we've seen, believe it or not, Robin, you can correct me on this, I think we had a couple of kiddos that hadn't been in school for, I think, 2 or 3 years. Incredible as it seems. So given all of this, the long-term consequences of opioid abuse, the medical legal partnership, along with its partners, we provide that multi-sector collaborative approach that can quickly address and provide services for these children. So we have a referral form. I don't think it's in our slide, but this is how our partners reach us. We're not only in the hospitals with them, providing training, education materials. It's a two-way street. They send us a referral. We have our opioid referral form. They get it directly to Robin and I. That's what's unique about the medical legal partnership. It comes directly to the 2 attorneys working on the project, where we send it up to intake and screening and get them through our system. One of the things that we feel has been a key to our success has been our very hands-on approach with our partners. Like all of you who were speaking before us, it sounds like in your community, you all have the same type of approach with your partners. We encourage a very holistic approach. A case might come to us, a child victim who is having difficulties in school, maybe hasn't been in school. Maybe that child has been subject to violence and needs a protection order. We're going to cover all those areas for those children, and we seek to stabilize their lives. So we've added a couple of stories here. Next slide, please. Just to kind of let you know a little bit about what we're doing here. The one case, Stephanie Miller, was a client of mine. Her cousin, her life had spiraled out of control with substance use disorder, living on the streets. She had dropped the children off at Stephanie's house. They were homeless. It got to a point where things got so desperate with mom that she was actually going to take the children and move out of state and go to a homeless shelter. Stephanie was referred to us through one of our partners, I think it was Care House, who spotted this. They sent it to us for a contested custody case, which we then accepted. It got pretty ugly along the way, but those girls are doing great now, and they're in the full legal custody of Stephanie. And you can see some very nice pictures. Another case, next slide, please. Another case we worked on. This is actually a great grandmother. Boy, what a case this was. This dependent and disabled mom was suffering from substance use disorder. Her boyfriend was also addicted, substance use disorder. This child was put in great danger. As a matter of fact, this child almost died at the hands of mom's boyfriend when he overdosed and was smothering this child. Suffice to say, this case was also referred to us through Care House. We went and filed for an emergency custody order, which we obtained, and then eventually got custody of this little baby. Her name is Athena. I think you can all see how beautiful she is. So, next slide. Before we began our grant, you could see our partners right there. We had a handful of them, very strong partnerships. And with the next slide, you can see all of our new community collaborators and partners. We have truly expanded over the last couple of years. Every one of these places we have reached out to, we've done training with, we've provided them with information, our referral forms, and we have a steady stream of referrals coming in. But it's more than just the referrals, obviously. It's the lives that we're changing. And like I said, with our medical legal partnership, we are right there. We are boots on the ground, right there within the facility. Care House Child Advocacy Center, you know, they see all of the kiddos who have been abused or neglected in our community, or most of them, and we have a very strong relationship with them. One of the ones that we wanted to talk about, next slide, please. One of the ones we wanted to talk about is, as we continue to think about how to expand our project, we reached out to Mahajan Therapeutics. It's kind of interesting because when we first began our project, we weren't thinking about the parents who were in recovery, the parents who lost custody or any rights to be a part of their child's lives. And we decided to reach out with them. We did a training. And for those parents who are in recovery, those parents who are now not seeing their kids, oftentimes in those cases, a grandparent or another family member who's given custody, the visitation is left up to the parties. Well, that never works out. And the way we looked at it is these children have already been victimized by losing their parents. What further victimization is going to go on in their lives when these parents who are living a life of sobriety can never see or be a part of their lives? And so we began taking referrals from Mahajan Therapeutics, and we've had a handful of them, and they have worked out pretty well. We're in there fighting because, you know, I think a parent who suffered from substance use disorder, let's face it, a lot of things go wrong in their lives, but they can get sober, they can turn their lives around. But I've noticed when we're in court, we're constantly fighting that battle. Well, you couldn't take care of the kids, you couldn't keep the utilities on. It doesn't matter where you are now 5 years later. So it is a struggle on these cases. But it was just one of the interesting things we sought to do and to tie it in with our entire project. Let's see where we at here. I think that's all I have. Next slide, please.
So there's some questions in the chat. Asking about how we work with our partners, if you wanted to address those.
Let's see, where are we at? Okay.
And just a reminder too, we can also do Q&A after the end of the presentation. If that's
sorry, that was my bad. So
go ahead, Robin.
Since we're going to wait till the end for the questions, I'll go ahead with my slide.
Sure.
I wanted to hit a few things that Joe hadn't said already. And one is we help low-income individuals. Our services are free. So basically they're getting a lawyer for free. And to say, when he talks about the direct referral, the difference between our legal aid, which provides free legal services for civil cases, not criminal, and us is that if you need housing assistance, or let's say you've got a landlord-tenant issue and you call legal aid, you're one of tens of thousands of calls that go to that intake line. For our medical providers and our partners, they can directly send us a referral to Joe or myself. They can do a warm handoff to these individuals versus going through the screening process. Legal aid, like social services and everything else, is always overworked and understaffed. So this is a real benefit to our partners, is that they have a person, either Joe or myself, they can contact and reach out. So one of the partnerships that we came up with that I'm really excited about, I refer to it as the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, is I do education law. And one of the issues we have around here is that there are not professionals who will do educational evaluations and then who are willing to testify. And it makes it hard for me to get kids appropriate education if I don't have this. So I was able to connect with our local College of Health, the School of Professional Psychology. These are grad students getting their PsyD. Turns out they're doing a fetal alcohol neonatal abstinence study on children through their outpatient clinic. So they have expertise. I have kids, and it's worked out really well where I'm able to refer the children I'm working with to them for an evaluation. They have participants for their study. In the meanwhile, they come to my school meetings and other meetings with healthcare, et cetera, and educate those providers. It's been really powerful having one of the doctors from the School of Psychology come and explain what fetal alcohol syndrome means, because it takes on a different connotation than most individuals would think. And we've been able to really focus on children who have fetal alcohol or neonatal abstinence syndrome. And we're getting to the point our medical partners know if you have a child that has this diagnosis, or they were born drug addicted, or they're exposed in utero, when it comes to them getting services in school, they really need to get evaluated, because what we found is that when they get early intervention services and learn to self-regulate, it improves their outcome down the road. So again, this is one with Wright State. It just was a really cool partnership that is working well for both sides. Next slide, please. So this is the other one I reached out to. Now, CareSource is our local Medicaid managed care provider. And it took me a while to get through to them, I'll be honest. I finally had to cyber stalk somebody to get in. And once I got in, we were able to start making connections. And so at this point, we're doing quarterly meetings for them. They have the nurse case managers, the medical case managers, they have the behavioral health case managers, they have job coaches, and all these individuals can contact us if they have a client they think needs a legal referral, or in this quarterly meeting, they can do a Q&A. So basically they can throw any question out there about a situation one of their families is dealing with, and we'll do the best to provide them with education and information. And again, it's worked nicely because I also have clients that I have two today that need case managers. So now I can refer them to CareSource to get the medical case managers to help make sure that they're following through with the services and to bring in those resources for the family. So it's a two-way street, and it's been quite interesting. The other thing with both Wright State and CareSource that's beneficial is data collection and formal scientific research are not the strengths of the legal community. I will admit, it's not our strengths. However, the graduate school as well as medical insurance, they have lots of data. They collect lots of data. So as we move along in this process, we're going to be having access to some of their data that we have impacted, so that we're not trying to do all the collection ourselves. Again, it's not a strong suit. I mean, I went to law school because I don't do math. It's just the way it is. So, so that's been another unusual partner that we've had. So you want to go to the next one? So this is one of my kiddos. He was being suspended and expelled from preschool when he was 4. And his grandmother was raising him, or she is raising him. She's raised all 3 of his siblings. All 3 were born drug addicted. Her daughter, the mother, is still in her addiction. The father overdosed and passed away a while ago. But he wasn't getting services in school, and he had a lot of acting out behaviors, and that's why they were suspending and expelling. What we were able to do is to get services in place for him to help him learn how to self-regulate. Again, this is one of the issues with children that have in utero exposure to drugs and alcohol. They have difficulty with self-regulation. So this is him graduating kindergarten. And he is also in the process of getting evaluated by the Wright State professionals to see what else we can put in place to get him services down the road. He does have a lot of medical conditions that are very abnormal, like he doesn't have a gallbladder. His internal organs are not aligned where they're supposed to be. He has developmental delays, fine motor, sensory. So again, the partnership with Wright State is really helping us get the data we need to figure out how to help this child as he moves forward. Next slide. So if you take anything away from Joe and I would suggest that you take away the perseverance. We just got this grant when COVID hit. And all of the best laid plans we had kind of went out the window. And so we had to shift gears. And I think I can say we did a fairly good job of it. We have done up until this month, we've done over 22 trainings for over 570 individuals in a variety of settings. We have worked with community resiliency coordinators that are in the schools. We have worked, as he said, with Mahjong, with parents who are in recovery, the local children's hospital, the local child advocacy center, the local prosecutor's office with victim witness. And so bringing all these individuals together, it has really made a nice network because even though Joe and I are lawyers, we also do a lot of what people would probably consider to be social services. So connecting individuals with resources. And we also do a legal needs assessment. So when they come to us, one good example, we had a referral from CareSource. The mother was in recovery. She lost her job because of COVID, and she was trying to get her felony expunged from her record. So it came in as an expungement. While I'm helping her with that, turns out both her girls have IEPs and they're not doing well in school. So we helped her with that. And then she wanted to get her own business up and running because of the difficulty getting employed with a felony. And so we had a community development attorney work with her to help set up her own business so that she could be successful. So again, we're looking at the individuals holistic. And, you know, if somebody comes in, they're being evicted, one of the questions we're going to ask them is, you know, if the father's not involved, are they paying child support? You know, looking at those financial resources, because that's a huge piece that a lot of these kiddos lose growing up is they don't have that additional financial resources. So again, Joe and I try to do a holistic approach and help individuals out. I do have to tell you one story that happened today on Joe. We had a client. Wait a minute.
I don't know if we want to, you got to tell me first.
You can't mute me. Okay. So we had a referral come in from the community hospital about mold and mildew conditions for a grandmother raising her grandkids. And so Joe got involved, sent a letter to the landlord, nice polite letter. You might want to think about taking care of this or else. Well, this weekend, and the landlord got on the ball and started dealing with the furnace and other things. This weekend, her carbon monoxide detector went off. And they had to have the fire department come, and it was pretty serious.
Oh, yeah.
That carbon monoxide detector was put up 3 weeks ago after Joe got involved.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a very poignant,
and
of how we can help individuals.
Right. And just to kind of feed off that, because they're probably thinking, well, how's that related to the opioid? Well, grandmother is raising this little child because both parents have substance use disorders. I'm trying to think if dad is in prison, but that's a case of a child victim living in, my goodness, the housing conditions were so horrific. When it rained, she literally had dozens of buckets in her house to catch the water coming in. About a week ago, a new roof was put on that house. We're very proud of that. Okay, so that child is a victim. Both his parents, their lives have been lost somewhat as far as opioid addiction. He's now living with grandmother. But my point is, child victimization, it affects every aspect of a child's life. From the roof over your head, to you attending school, to your own safety, to financial resources. And Robin, that is that story. Yeah, I don't know what would have happened, but that was not a good situation. I know they came out and they turned the furnace off, and within, I think, I don't know, it had to be within 24 hours. They had a plumber out there. Everything's fixed. The red tag's been lifted. The heat's back on in that house. They've got a new roof, and they've started to repair the inside of that home as well. So that's a real success story. Thank you for sharing that, Robin. Thank you.
Yeah, and just so you know, one of the other issues I deal with in the education forum is bullying. And the youngest child to suicide in our county was 6 years old. And it is prevalent. The mental health with the opioid epidemic has been huge. We also had the mass shooting as well as the tornadoes. So our youth around here are pretty traumatized, and bullying reaches new levels. And that's where I'm able to help intervene, help the grandparents assert the rights of the children, make sure that they're safe, to put an end to it, to help get them services at the same time.
Yeah. Very well done, Robin.
So thank you all for being here. Appreciate being part of this.
We've got a lot of questions. My goodness. Oh.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Thank you,
goodness.
Joseph and Robin. Now we're going to open up the floor, and I don't think we need to open it up anymore because we have plenty of questions, which is great, that came in through the Q&A feature. So I'm thinking I'm going to start with the ones that came in for capacity builders. So Tina and Gloria. I can read off the first one. You might want to turn on your camera.
This one. Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, welcome. So the first question that came in is, establishing collaborative relationships with law enforcement is sometimes challenging. Can you give us more information on how you accomplished this? Were there any challenges?
No challenges, but like I have been working with the Navajo tribe for 20 plus years. I have the experience. As stated in my bio, I have been working with the tribal prosecutor's office, and which opened the doors to working with law enforcement. And so I've gotten to know and train law enforcement rookies that came on board who are now lieutenants and sergeants. And so my first initiative step was to take that call and start collaborating and talking and setting a meeting. And they did come and visit, and we talked, and so that's how we began to they knew what I was talking about. They knew exactly what we're talking about. And we felt that we were able to fill in those gaps of services that were needed. So we didn't have any barriers, not that I know of, but I believe that with having my background working in the public safety realm, that kind of really opened up the doors for me. And also in our culture that it's called and means acknowledging one another through clans. And so when you use that powerful word of the KE called that addresses you, when you meet people out in the public, that simple handshake means a lot. And that's what we use. We could acknowledge them. Maybe one of the officers have one of our 4 clans on our maternal side or our paternal side, and that's where it comes in.
Okay, thank you. The next one was more on if you could elaborate a little more on the youth mentoring that you do at Capacity Builders.
I could answer that. So Capacity Builders, like I said, it was one of our base initiatives, teen pregnancy prevention in the schools, where we implemented the teen outreach program from children from 6th grade on to 12th grade. And then from there, we wrote for many grants in different areas, such as currently we have a teen pregnancy prevention initiative out in the Kirtland, Newcomb, Shiprock area. We also created a program called iLead, where we took people from age 18 to 24, young adults in the community, college-bound kids in the community, and taught them how to research for grants, write for grants, collaborate with partners in their community, get to know their community, find out what the needs are, and then working with their community, they became what we call change agents. It was kind of like a paid internship. And then we had a National Parks Service grant where we employ kids from 16 to 24, and they help build trails in their community at national parks. We have a youth conservation corps grant that we got every year, and we implemented in different communities such as Newcomb, Shiprock, Hogback, Minahazad. And again, we employed youth to work in their communities, building trails, building parks, building skate parks, just really giving back to their community and getting paid for it. And then we have a swag program where we talk to kids 5th grade to 6th grade who were presented with workbooks. We had to use workbooks because of the COVID restrictions, and they receive an incentive to educate themselves and make themselves aware about opioids at different levels. So we had elementary level, we had middle school level, we had a high school level. And we reached about, I want to say 100 kids. Mm-hmm. We have a a New Mexico youth mentoring group in which we take cohorts of kids and educate them again on opioid awareness. We have our DSC, our Navajo Youth Builders Coalition, where a group of us, myself and Gloria, and some more of our CBI team go to community chapter houses and do presentations about substance use and abuse in their communities. We do these at big fairs where we can get up to 100,000 people. And those are always fun. And then we have an SPF grant that does nearly the same thing, but more on a research local evaluation basis. We have a National Endowments of the Arts grant where we find the most famous artists in our area to work with youth in the schools in their art classrooms, help them build up a financial management site where they can make their own money on their own art, mm-hmm. and get them out into different art galleries. And then we have our Arizona Top and programs in top programs in Arizona. So we are constantly expanding and trying to reach a lot of people in the Navajo Nation community. And so those are the youth-focused programs. I hope that answered the question.
Oh, yeah. And the next one, it was, can you please talk more about your partnership with the Navajo Nation Police Department? Like, what role would you like for them to play related to children, youth, crime victims, and the opioid addiction crisis?
The Navajo Nation Police Department, what we've done is that we started working with them to, they were arresting a lot of juveniles and weren't too sure of what they were going to be able, because they did the talk with the juvenile. And at that point, they identified some problems. So they came to us and says, how can we resolve some of these things to not have this juvenile be jailed, or, you know, this child, this underage child needs counseling. So what they did is we started doing a referral. And so we would do a referral and send it to Desert View to our partners, and they started working with the individual. So that was one of our successes in the program, where we were able to connect with, you know, the tribal police and getting referrals for our programming. And so that was that was key, definitely, with our program. And so, and a lot of times there was some, a lot of times we also don't have data collection on opioids, and the tribal police were able to help us fill in those gaps that were needed to define our data sets in how many arrests are actually through an opioid crisis. Thank you.
Okay. And then I'm one more for capacity builders. And just a reminder, if we're not able to get through all the questions for both presentations, we'll be developing a document and following up with responses that we can share with the PowerPoint and resources to go up on the meeting website. The next one is, I really like your brochures and resources. Can you share a bit more about how to use them? Sometimes we are not sure how to build such resources, and then how best to use them.
A lot of our brochures for the different programs that we have here at Capacity Builders, we distribute in community events. And this can be any kind of community event, from the Mac and Cheese Festival that we have, to Christmas bazaars, to marathons, just being very unconventional outreach events. We just show up there, show our face, and just make sure that people know who we are. And we, each project coordinator or prevention educator, we're just kind of really out there really pushing those resources. And then, you know, at the same time, when we get the feedback from community events, there are other resources that we get to meet. And so then we start attending meetings, and then we get to know more people, and we start to build a space full of people that we get to know. And we are all about sharing resources. We have many websites, and in every website we have a resource page where people get invited or they invite themselves to be a part of. So we like sharing the wealth. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much. And we can always elaborate a little more in the resource to share later with participants.
Thank you.
The next set of questions came in for Joseph and Robin's presentation. And I know you guys also had started to address them in the frequently asked questions. So I'm just, in case anyone has missed it, Robin and Joseph, I'm just going to read it. Recently, national studies have revealed a huge gap in the availability of crime victim services in medical settings. And yet that seems to be a common first stop for crime victims immediately after being victimized. What do you think are some foundational steps we can take as a larger victim service field to bridge this gap? Robin, did you want to share a little more on that?
So that's a complex question with a whole lot of moving parts. I think the premise of the child advocacy centers is the start of how to improve that process. The coordination between healthcare and law enforcement, there's a natural kind of adversarialness, I think, a lot of times between the two. And long story short, I don't have a good answer for you. Other than we keep trying and see what works, and if it doesn't, try something new.
I just want to add that here in Montgomery County, and it's not something we like to share, but the reality is we were at ground zero for the opioid crisis, and in many ways we still are. You know, the nice thing about what they did here, the community took positive steps to get that out, to address it. The community overdose action team brings in dozens and dozens of community resources, from law enforcement, from the courts, to all the social agencies. We've had a really strong response in our community to that. And as far as our partners that we work with, and I understand the question, and I know in many communities it's a real problem to bridge that gap, the availability of crime victim services. And I'm not trying to be boastful, but I really feel in our community we do a really good job through very hard lessons learned. Everybody has stepped up, from Dayton Children's to Care House, Montgomery County Prosecutor's Office Victim Witness Division, the Community Overdose Action Team, Artemis Domestic Violence Center. It is there in our community, and I got to say that our response has been so strong as far as this opioid crisis that I personally think it should be a model of what other communities should be doing. So it probably wasn't sort of kind of an answer, but I can only speak to what I see going on in our community.
Okay. The next question is re-entering previous question. They're trying to complete his question for MLP. Oftentimes, families' only intersections with the legal system has been for positive reasons, and there is at times distrust of the legal system. Yeah. Have you ever experienced this? And if so, how have you been able to mitigate it?
Yeah, it's Joe and I are probably some of the few lawyers you'll ever meet that actually do house calls. When people don't have transportation, we'll go to our clients, really addressing them. One of the things I do for me is that I never call my clients by their first name. I always call them by their last name and make it clear that they are my boss. I take my direction from them. And that's really uncomfortable for some of them because they're used to be, they're not used to being in the driver's seat. But patience, understanding, and also addressing some of them. I have a new client that just came and she needs help with her daughter who has numerous disabilities. Well, I found out her daughter's a product of rape. And, working with her with the understanding that she's got trauma, she's got PTSD, and taking that into consideration as we go forward.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of pick up on that, distrust in legal systems, distrust in law enforcement. I think the question specifically talked about distrust in the legal community. Yeah, it's a huge thing. This didn't occur in a vacuum. This is built up over years and years of victimization, of marginalization in the community. Robin and I, it's our job to show them that the legal system, the courts can and do work, that they've got strong advocates now in their corner. So yeah, we see many of our clients who have that distrust. And like Robin said, it's through patience, it's through advocacy, it's through how you listen to them that you can overcome that. But it is a real problem, and really for good reason. So it's something we're always aware of. I mean, many of our clients have really been through the school of hard knocks, and now they have a child that's been placed with them when one of their own family members are in jail, suffering or on the streets with substance use disorder. There's a stigmatism even associated with that you need to overcome. So yeah, these are tough cases, and these are tough issues, and you're dealing with an awful lot here. That's a really good question, though, by the way.
Thank you. The next one, Joseph, that came in is, how do you assist a parent who refuses to stop using, although he or she may lose custody for their children?
Okay, yeah, this is one that we have gone round and round in circles, because we know when we've got a parent who's in recovery, been in long-term recovery, that they can relapse, and they frequently do. There's no easy way to do it. You have to understand that, yes, relapsing, it's all a part of the process. And quite honestly, if they don't, you kind of tell them what's going to happen in court. Okay. And they're not going to get custody, or they're not going to be able to see their children outside of a visitation center. So it's a real tough issue. Robin, you want to talk a little more about that? Because we had these discussions when we decided to start doing this with those parents.
We've wrestled with this because as attorneys, we have attorney-client privilege. And so this is an ongoing dialogue that Joe and I have. And what we've kind of come up with is that we will not accept cases where there was physical or sexual abuse by a parent. So even if a parent's sober, if they were convicted of abusing the child, that's not a case we're going to pick up. So again, it's, as all of you know, working with people in recovery, you can't force somebody to get sober. They have to, do it on their own. And reach out. So we are mandated reporters, then we have the attorney-client privilege. So it limits us to what we can or will do.
Okay. The next one is if you can talk a little bit more on your relationship with your clients and caregivers and how that helps your work.
Is that for us?
Yeah, Jeannie,
yes.
Jeannie,
yes.
Of course, had to ask that tough question of us, Robin. We'll be talking to her at the next meeting.
So the question was working with our clients and their caregivers.
Yeah, she asked, can you talk some more about the relationship with your clients, caregivers, and how that helps your work?
Yeah, usually when they send us a client, we can't divulge anything under attorney-client privilege, but we can do a release so that we can talk to the healthcare provider about different parts of the case. And they also are able to provide us information. Like, it's really important to me with doing education and school law issues, being on top of what the kids' medications are, how they've been adjusted, whether or not they're on medication, any new diagnoses, because that helps me do what I need to do to advocate for the children. And we try, Joe and I, everybody, he and I routinely get calls, probably half a dozen a day easily, from different medical providers, healthcare workers, and they'll say, I got this case. One of the famous things with Joe at a previous presentation is he's referred to as, I got a guy. I got a guy, and they'll call and they'll say they got this situation, and we'll try to connect them with a resource. But yeah, it's typically a two-way street. And I think we have a good relationships going on with our partners.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier, that trusted relationship between a person and their physician, their nurse practitioner, a social worker from the hospital. That trusted relationship, I think it only enhances the work that we're doing as far as how closely we're able to work with our partners. So I think it's a win-win for everybody involved, certainly. And like I said, it's relationships that have been cultivated over many, many, many years. You just can't call up the hospital and say, hey, we want to come in and do this. No, it doesn't work that way. You not only have to do that, but you have to show them the kind of results you're going to get. They're going to positively impact their families' lives. Yeah.
Great. The next question also, I believe, is is for you, for Robin and Joseph. Having worked with the medical professionals to integrate non-medical services, I am reminded of the challenges of integration. Can you please share a bit about how you went about identifying partners for this innovative integrative approach? Did you assess readiness or capacity in some way? Were there key messages that you found to be most helpful to securing partners?
Wow.
Yeah, and I can reread it as well.
I can see it.
Right. I mean, part of this, the reaching out that we did was based on our experience, where we saw the holes and the gaps, and trying to figure out who would be the partners to bring that in, and then reaching out to them. Like I said, Bright State, not only do they have the fetal alcohol NAS study going on, we're also working on a human trafficking aspect, because we found that, you know, human trafficking victims are rescued and there's a big news article in it, but when you go to find out what services they've gotten, there's no track record or information. They just kind of drop off. So again, it's been based on experience, and with COVID, a lot of it was flying by the seat of our pants and, you know, trying to shift gears quickly.
Yeah, there are several parts to that question. Yeah, getting in within the hospital system, the integration, I think, as you put it, it is tough. It was tough. And it's only been in recent years that they've really come to understand the full capacity of a medical legal partnership. When we started this, there was nothing there. This was all new. Now there are medical legal partnerships all over the country. I can't remember the last count. It's well over 300. So it's a model that works, and it's a model that once the hospital buys into it, they can achieve some real success and some great outcomes for their families.
Okay. And I'm looking at time. We have, I think, time maybe for 2 to 3 more questions. The next one is the model you have in place replicated in other places? I have never seen it before. Do you think the model that you have established could be packaged and implemented?
Joe, you were talking about that just a second ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've only just begun to realize, and we've talked about this, I think we've only just begun to realize the potential of medical legal partnerships. It's a model that literally every hospital can use. Now, we focus our medical legal partnership on children. Other medical legal partnerships treat their whole patient population, adults, seniors. Many, especially at the community health centers, many of those families, low income, living in poverty, facing significant issues in their life. Anything from a senior having their Social Security check garnished, or being taken advantage of by some contractor, or having other type issues, advanced directives. Yeah, the medical legal partnership model can be used and integrated, I believe, into any healthcare setting. And it goes hand in hand with most of the hospitals, I believe, now have social workers on staff, community health workers on staff. These are the expansions I've seen in our community. As more and more of the medical community learn to refocus and shift their attention to these social determinants of health. It's just amazing to see what's happened over the last 10 years. So the answer to that question is yes, I do think it can be packaged and re-implemented in many ways.
Okay, great. The next one is, these success stories of your clients are so amazing. Do you share these with your partners or the larger community?
Yes, when we have permission, we have to do media releases and all that. But yeah, on our reports, Joe and I, somebody asked a question, I was trying to answer it. Joe and I are paid by legal aid. Our services are free, but our firm, which provides free legal services, is founded by grants and donations. But yeah, we do try to get the word out.
Okay, great. And now I think the next question, it's for capacity builders. Gloria and Tina. Can you talk more about your partnership and what you believe made the biggest difference in getting partners to the table? What helped others become interested in your work?
Are they on?
Yeah, I think I might have lost them, but we can always follow up with Gloria and Tina, and we can get a response to share with everyone as a follow-up. And I'm looking really quick that I didn't miss any questions that did not get answered. Okay, I think we got most, yeah, we got most of them. And yeah, Joseph and Robin, did you have any last minute comments?
Everyone just keep up the good work you're all doing. I'm just so impressed with what I'm hearing. And I know after yesterday's sessions, Robin and I talked quite a bit on some of the things we heard and many of the things we didn't know. So just outstanding work. And hopefully we can all keep this going because it's really, really important. Robin?
Opportunity. It's been wonderful getting to meet everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentations. It's been great. I just wanted to have a couple reminders before we end this session. Please be sure to check out the Grantee Spotlight videos that will be running during the comfort break between 2:50 and 3 p.m. Eastern Time. As a reminder to view the videos, click on the comfort break link on the left-hand side of your screen. Following the comfort break, we also will resume to the next session scheduled, which is the family-centered care starting at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So we look forward to seeing you all joining those sessions. Have a great day, and thank you again for your presentations.